What have you done today to leave footprints in the sand for others to follow? What have you done? Right? Because it's not about sending the apprentice over to cut strut. What are you doing to help further not only their career, but our industry? There's an evolution, right, going on. AI, BIM, VDC. There's a lot of things that are changing in our industry, but the skill set to use your hand to build something for now and in the future, it's irreplaceable.
Tradesmen built America. Not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking, blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks. So when you sold your company to one of the owners of the Dodgers,
Right.
he had asked you, how much would you sell your company for? And you gave him your patent response.
Right.
You can't afford it.
That's right. Exactly right.
What did he tell you after that?
So initially, I wasn't looking to sell the business.
Right.
I was looking for investors because we had gone from roughly about, an $8 million company to close to $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
And you as a business owner can imagine just what the payroll is each week.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So I knew, and
should be about 30%.
roughly.
Yeah,
right?
30 million
Roughly.
a year. Yeah.
And then you add in the overtime with all the work we're doing.
You
We're
bet.
working up in New York, right? The benefits, those are huge up there. So if you read any business books, they will tell you that my model was not going to be successful because most businesses, especially small businesses, fail because of cash flow, right? You have to kick your coverage. So my whole thought process was I need to get investors in the business. And I leaned into some relationships, didn't really know Bobby, had heard of him, and had the opportunity to meet him briefly and describe what I was doing. And we talked about kind of what would it take to invest in the business. And his response kind of threw me off because it was, I don't make for a good partner. I'll just buy the business. And to your point, well, there's not a number.
Right.
And that made him laugh a bit. And he goes, you obviously don't know who I am.
Yeah. Don't tell me I can't afford something, I'll show you.
So he did.
Yeah.
But what I appreciated about it is the fact that there was this bigger picture, right? It wasn't just buying a mechanical plumbing process company. It was a bigger picture of integrating into this business model that he was creating in real time. And I use the analogy, he was flying the airplane while he was building it. And so as we started to discuss kind of what that was going to look like, he could have picked a lesser value number because what I saw was an opportunity to grow and diversify within the same space, but now getting into his orbit of what he was trying to do from a development, real estate, and construction at that time. So it was pretty interesting because we were playing poker, and
you're both going to win.
His stack was a lot bigger than mine.
Absolutely.
and it's turned into this win-win partnership. I always say that Bobby is, he's not so much about the details every day, but he's extremely intuitive and his brain is constantly working. And I'd like to think I'm kind of on that same level. But the vision that he has is incredible, and the partnership has been phenomenal. And it was one of the toughest decisions at the time because I thought, quite honestly, that we would lose what built Beard for so many years. But in fact, we've enhanced it because we've got an offering now that we've been able to take across the country, which is phenomenal to see Beard and all these different
company now.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's been very challenging, but I wouldn't change it for the world because it's created so much opportunity for myself and for others within our company.
Now, I love that. because I used to say the same thing. It's like, look, you can't afford it. And to meet somebody that says, well, apparently you don't know that I can.
Yeah.
It is a great answer to hear. But then to go through with that. Now, and I ask you that question first because I love that story. But what I started to ask is, you started out in the trades, and we'll talk more about that a little bit, at a company your grandfather worked at.
Right.
And you ended up acquiring that company.
Right.
What did that feel like? Because to me, that, to say, hey, look, I bought probably the first company you really worked for.
Absolutely. 100%.
And, you worked for it for a while. You went off to college.
Right.
Met some amazing people, learned a lot of good things along the way.
For sure.
But then you went to college where most of us don't. We're
right.
like, I say the things about tradespeople all the time. The day we get a license in our pocket, we realize this is what I am supposed to be.
Right.
I got in plumbing to become a plumber.
Right.
The day I got a license, I'm like, aimed low, I hit low, man. I am doing good. You're like, hey, look, I love all this, and don't mind learning the plumbing, the pipe fitting, the welding, and all that, but I want a little bit more.
For sure.
And you went off to college. Now me, I've learned a lot of different things later.
Right.
Man, if I'd have learned all this 30 years ago, I may have told you, hey, you apparently have no idea who you're talking to, do you? Because I can't afford your company. How did it feel to acquire the company that you first worked for, and your grandfather, who you worked under, is now really working for you?
Right.
It's a big flip, isn't it?
It was a big flip. Well, when I made the decision to leave Beard, I had gone out I graduated college, and immediately after graduating, we had a project at a semiconductor facility in Arizona, and there was nobody to do it. So I said, well, I'll do it. So I went out to Arizona, spent some time, met some amazing people, amazing contractors, and developed a true business partnership. And so I learned that you have to lean into those business relationships. That it's just not a relationship. It's business relationships, no matter how great or small. I always say the best decision and the worst decision that I made at the very same time was leaving Beard, because it was all I knew. To your point, it was my first job. Family-owned business, third generation. My grandfather worked for the company for almost 60 years. But what that allowed me to do, it allowed me to grow and diversify and see the world, which had I stayed at Beard, not to say I wouldn't, but probably not.
You just seen Texas Instruments.
That's exactly right. You're exactly right.
It's
ST Microelectronic, Texas Instruments,
exactly.
Small Service Group. That's right. So, man, I was exposed to all kinds of contract management, risk management. I mean, all these things in a larger corporation. So it gave me what I call tools in my tool belt to take back, so that when I had the opportunity to buy Beard, I didn't know financially at the time how I was going to do it. And it's unfortunate because Beard was in a distressed situation. And this was in 2004. And
if you're enjoying the Trade Talks, hit that subscribe or follow button, which helps us produce this awesome blue-collar content absolutely free. And now, back to the episode.
I kind of had this parallel process of, this is an opportunity for me to come in and buy a company, but it's also a company that I need to save. Because there's some companies that aren't worth saving for whatever reason, right? And so, I had a lot of conversations with my family, with Tate, and I made the decision to go all in. And at that time, David Beard owned the business, but he had really never run the business. His business had run him.
Absolutely.
Right.
I worked for Beard for probably, if it's 2004 when you bought it, 5 years before you bought it. Never met David.
Really?
I saw him walk through the office one time, and
really,
I was like, hey, y'all, there's somebody in here. Like, oh God, that's the owner. It's like, oh, what, really?
Really?
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, that's never how I was taught, right?
Absolutely.
The X factor in our business, anybody can buy materials, but the X factor is a labor, right?
Every day.
Every day. And so fortunately, Tate instilled that in me in an early age. And I've never forgotten that, because it is the difference maker on any project, right? I don't care what anybody says.
You bet.
So going in and acquiring a distressed business, and I will tell you how distressed it was. we were in violation of the bank covenants for the finance agreement. And so I literally had to walk into the bank and say, we're in default. You guys don't realize this yet. And we're not going to be able to make these payments. And I'll never forget the look on the president's face, because he had just become president of that bank like 2 weeks before.
Yeah. And he's like, uh-oh.
And he goes, well, he had this defense mechanism. He's like, well, we'll just take everything. And so I closed my book. I said, thank you. You're more than welcome to. You're going to see that all that information that you've got on the balance sheets either doesn't exist or is fully depreciated. So good luck. And I picked my stuff up, and David and I walked out, and David goes, where are we going? So we're leaving. He's already made the decision. He come running out into the parking lot. He goes, oh, wait. He goes, we got to work this thing out. I said, that's what we're here for, to work it out. So we did. And, you know, that's when we started growing. And I would tell you, every long-term business relationship we had to lean into those, you know, Coca-Cola, Texas Instruments, ST. And we had to say, hey, look, we need 10-day pay. We need you not to bond these projects, because here's where we're at.
Yeah. We're going to give away a percentage right here. Just
right. And on the vendors and suppliers, we pulled out, you know, 90-day terms. And, you know, all the long-standing folks, out of 32 suppliers that were our key suppliers at that time that we were working with, one said, no, pay me now. Just one. And that's attributed to the fact of those business relationships, right? That existed for years and years. So coming into that situation is very different than buying a business that is doing well. The balance sheet looks good. You know, you're checking all those boxes. You're just trying to make payroll each week for the longest period of time. Yep. So that added some stress and some tools in my tool belt, but it gave me the opportunity to buy the business based on more sweat equity than dollars and cents. Because at the time I didn't know how hard it was, but I knew it was going to be hard.
You bet.
And so, you know, I would say to anybody in that space, you know, if you're looking at making an acquisition of a business, make sure you go through the due diligence process, right? And make sure, what I call looking behind the curtain, because anybody can take numbers and make them look good, right? But if you pull the curtain back, and you really have to, and don't just rely on third party, you know, evaluators, because they've got a list of 10 items that they're checking.
Right.
And if they check 8 or 7, they're probably going to be, oh, this is a good company, right?
And most companies could make 8 out of 10 look pretty good on paper.
Every day.
You bet.
Every day. And you and I were talking about earlier, the valuation and the multiples, right? You know, this is not a gadget and widget business that we're in, right?
Right.
And to say you've got a book of business, that's great. You've got tools and equipment, that's great. They're probably fully depreciated.
Oh, yeah.
And then you've got key people, employees. You've got to make sure that those guys are going to ride with you, right? Because those are the critical path to success. If you've got the right team, and you can make a business successful, but if you go in there and pay XYZ, and people leave, and those are the people that had the relationships, you're nothing more than a box with tools and equipment.
You know, and you did really good, because number one, Tate.
Right.
He didn't go anywhere. He wasn't going anywhere.
No.
He was actually going to be with you till the very end, no matter what.
For sure. I brought him out of retirement.
I know.
He's like, okay, all right, I'll do this for 2 more years.
I know. I'll come back for you. 2 years stretched out too, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah. No, it was so good. And yeah, you know, a story about Tate. I remember getting called over to his office one day, and I wish I could even remember what it was. You know, when I first started over there, I was under a superintendent and a foreman, I guess, Buddy and Mike Harrington. Me and Mike didn't always get along, and I told him one day, look, you know what, do whatever you want, get rid of me, whatever you want to do. A little bit later, I get a call, hey, you need to go see Tate. And I go over and sit in his office, and you know, Tate just sits back and he lays back and he talked in that soft voice.
Right.
Let you know what you did wrong.
That's right.
Let you know what you need to do, and let you know how you need to do it. And he'd get done, you got up and you walked out, and you're like, man, he never raised his voice, but I just got my ass chewed.
That's right.
And it was like, man.
Oh, that's right.
Like, wow.
That's right.
And but that he was so good with people.
Right.
It didn't matter if it was employees, if it was TI, it didn't matter who it was. he was amazing.
Yeah.
And it was really, really neat.
You know, I got to tell you something. So I had the privilege, and at times the frustration of being not only a coworker, right, peer to peer,
But a family member.
but a family member.
You bet.
And I learned, again, tool in my tool belt, right? I learned the art of negotiation at a very early age. And you're going to laugh at this because I may have not ever told you this story. So I learned there would be times during the summer where I'd stay with my grandparents for a couple of weeks, and I'd ride into work and go to BG's at 5 a.m. and have breakfast the whole nine, right? And I enjoyed those times. I really did. But then when I'd come home or go to their house and I'd be filthy dirty for whatever reason, my grandmother would lose her mind. She'd lose her mind. And I had the aha moment. I'm like, I can lean into this. I can play. Cause he's like, we got to clean you up before we go to home. And I'm like, whatever. But there were those little moments in time that I never forget. And I'll never forget this one. And so I don't know if you remember, but back in the day at TI, everybody would eat in the SC cafeteria. All the wheels, right?
Yeah.
So Tate sat with all the executives there at that one table. Nobody sat there, right? Well, I didn't know all those rules. I didn't pay attention. 14 years old.
Absolutely.
So I go into the SC cafeteria with the guys, and I realized I didn't bring my wallet. I don't know, left it in the car, whatever. So I'm like, I got to eat. So I go over that table, make a beeline to the table. I'm not thinking about anything. Mm-hmm. I walk up. All these executive VPs of TI, I'd known them forever. I don't know any of them.
You bet.
Tate's sitting right there. My mind switches from business to personal.
You bet.
Got to eat.
Hey, Granddad. I
go, hey, Granddaddy, can I borrow some money for lunch? Those executives started laughing. I didn't realize how bad it. And as I'm walking away, he gives me, and I can see the look on his face, and it's not good.
Right.
And
you're going to have this conversation on the way home.
And as I'm walking away, I hear Louis McMahon, the executive vice president, hey, Granddaddy, can I borrow some money too?
Oh, man.
But I mean, the art of negotiation and understanding the moment in time, right? And those little things, believe it or not, sometimes those moments, you talk about real world experiences, college versus real world. Sometimes those are the moments you remember more so than any class you ever took. And for me, I can tell you while going to college, there were life lessons that I learned. It was more about the experiences of working with the guys in the field and understanding what our teams do, truly, you included, is art.
You bet.
It really is. I mean, you take 12 quarter-inch lines and have several different offsets.
Make it look beautiful.
It's unbelievable.
You bet.
And plumbing's the same way. Mm-hmm. It's just, and those are the things that stick with me, right? Even when you're getting your rear chewed out.
Oh, yeah.
In a very monotone, I do the same thing because I've seen that. Mm-hmm. And you walk out of there going, man, I know I got my rear chewed out, but I'm motivated, right? I want to do right.
Now I'm going to show him I can do
right.
good. You
That's
bet.
right. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. The only time I really saw Tate in the field, we were in for a Saturday shutdown. And that's not true. I'd walk jobs with him in the South Building. But we had done a shutdown in the Kilby Center. And there were two crews out. There was me and my crew. We were doing a DI water line. And it was probably about a 200-foot line from valve to valve. Literally had two unions to tie on to and whatnot. And we had scheduled an 8-hour shutdown for it. And had about an 8-hour shutdown scheduled for something else. Had some plumbers in helping the pipe fitters and welders do something. He said, look, as soon as the plumbers get freed up over there, they'll come over here and help you finish. You just get all these other lines disconnected, drained down out of the way and all that. And I looked at him. I said, I'm doing it a different way. I'll be done by the time y'all come over. And he looks at me. He says, no, you won't. I said, no, I got this. I've had time to look at it. He said, yeah, we'll be there. Just do what you can do.
Right.
Well, I'd already had everything prefab. So,
right.
It was literally what he thought. Drop everything else, get it out of the way, install your hangers, put this stuff up, which our hangers were already up. And he came over. Well, by the time he came over, we already had our pile of the bottom of the crevices in a pile.
Right.
And I had me on one lift, an apprentice on another lift, and we're feeding this line. And Tate happened to walk in probably about 9:30, 9:45. And he walks in, he looks, he says, well, what are you doing? I said, well, we're going to get this line up here. We're going to flex it and bend it and bring it out this way and then take it in and pull it around here. And then I don't have to fight all this and do all this. And he looked at me and said, that's never going to work. I said, well, why don't you climb over on that apprentice with that, climb over on that lift with that apprentice, give him a hand pulling while I'm on this end, and we're going to feed it. So he just kind of shakes his head and he starts to look and he says, all right. So he climbs on a lift, goes up there, and they do that. And I feed this thing in. He comes in at 9:30. By 9:45, we're done. It's tied in.
Yeah.
All we got to do is bleed it.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and said, how did you see this?
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. I know that PDF pipe is flexible.
Right.
It's not rigid.
Right.
It's not like
right.
it can only go up in one
That's
straight
right.
way. If we bend it and loop it and bring it back and all this.
Right.
So we finished at 10. I said, we'll go. We were already picked up by 10. We'll go help the other guys. He said, no, y'all go home.
Yeah.
He said, y'all got your 8
Yeah.
hours in.
You know what? That's exactly what I was going to say. He was never one of these guys that said, you got to work 8, you got to work 10, you got to work 12.
Yeah, get your job
If you
done.
get your job
Yeah.
done, you're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And
He's great.
And those are kind of those little things. And you talked about prefab.
Mhm.
You did prefab before it was cool,
Oh, yeah.
before it was a big thing, right? Before all the BIM and VDC and all this stuff, right?
Absolutely.
And one of the funny things about you is, and I remember these like it's yesterday, those and other types of conversations, right? This is what I'm going to do. This is what I see, right? To a lot of people, it's like crazy. Oh, he's just talking.
Yeah.
He's just talking.
That'll never work. He's just making stuff up.
And even what you're doing today, right? The vision, right?
Mhm.
You can have all these visions, like you were talking about 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm having this vision.
You bet.
And those are the difference makers, because the critical path to success is not only having the right team around you, it's having smart people in that circle
Mhm.
that you exist in, right? Because you can have a vision, but then you've got to be able to execute, and you've got to have the right people to execute. And I've seen on a very limited basis your ability to turn these visions into reality. And that's pretty cool. And I'm proud for you.
Thank you, sir.
Because there's not a lot of people that will be able to take the vision and execute the plan and do the due diligence that it takes, because that's a ton of risk.
Oh, yeah.
It's the unknown. And you've done it, and you're continuing to do it, and that's pretty cool. But that's what leadership is. That's what it means to be, someone that can operate, run, move a business forward. Because you can find people to do accounting. You can find these people to do these specific tasks that are incredible, but you got to have the vision. You got to have the mindset to be able to execute. Then you got to be willing to take the risk. Because how many people do you know that have said, I want to do this, I want to do that?
Oh, yeah.
But then
they still want to.
Yeah. A lot of want.
You bet.
One never got anywhere.
I was at a conference the other day, and guy says, where's the richest place on earth? The cemetery. Because so many amazing ideas went there and just died.
Mm.
And
Facts.
me, I'm one of these people, when I get an idea, it's like, okay, wait, who do I know? Who can I connect with? How can I make this happen? God, 15 years ago, 20 years ago now, I woke up with an idea of a new sport.
Okay.
Woke up. Oh, now, Bert, I don't remember my dreams. Matter of fact, God, we're almost 30 minutes in. Tell everybody who you are and what you do now. Normally I do that in about the first 10 or 15 minutes. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
I am Bert Wells, and I'm currently the president and CEO of Beard Integrated Systems, which is a process piping, plumbing, and mechanical contractor that's been based in Texas since 1928. We're actually one of the oldest union contractors. And we had spoken about it already, but I bought the company in 2004 from the third generation Beard family. And my grandfather, Harvey Tate, that we've spoken about, got me kind of into this space. And really, it was more about, hey, I can make $8 as a pre-apprentice versus $4 flipping burgers. And so, I started in roughly 1986, at the age of 14-ish, when I wasn't supposed to, because you're supposed to be 16 to be, but they had the PAT program back in the day, the Summertime Apprentice program, and that's how I started, and never looked back. So I'm married, I've got a couple of kids, and just really kind of enjoying what I call the next waves, because there's always a wave. And like we talked about in 2014, I sold the business to a high net wealth individual and stayed involved in that and many other businesses. And every day I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah, no, and I love that because I keep telling people the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like I still hadn't figured out what I want to be when I grow up.
No.
And God, I just turned 60.
Did you really?
Yes, I really did.
That's crazy.
The October. It's first day, the beginning of the month. We're already in December.
That's crazy.
Yeah, turned 60 the first week of October, so 2 months ago.
Still act like you're 15.
Yeah, you know, I act like I'm 15. I still get in trouble like I'm 15.
Look, I've seen some of your counts.
I know. It's crazy.
But that's good, man. It's healthy. Like, you've got a perspective.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, you're relatable, right? And it's very funny because you've always been kind of goofy, right?
A lot.
And you've been wired different. And we talked about this earlier, to be able to pull all that together with the industry knowledge and the vision for this and other things that you're doing, and more things to come, I'm sure. It's pretty cool. I love success stories built on the grind, right?
That's the only way I know how to build
the silver spoon theory and all that stuff. You know, I got lucky. I did a TikTok video and I've got all, all those. But the fact that and I can legitimately say this because I've been a part of it, to see what you've done and what you've built based on that vision with the right people around you is incredible.
Well, thanks.
So,
yeah, you talk about things. I'm building an app right now. I don't know if that guy looks familiar.
Love the mustache.
You know,
I love the stash. It's awesome.
It works. It
does work.
And you knew me back when I had long hair, and man, I look completely different now.
Yeah. People, you should throw up some old pictures.
Oh yeah, I don't even know if I have any. I think I held them all.
Burned them.
Yeah, probably did. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah. If these people saw me 20 years ago,
oh yeah,
they'd be like, "That's not Roger."
No, that's not.
Ponytail down to my waist.
The biker?
That's the biker. Who's the biker guy? I don't want to talk to him.
Stranger danger.
So you go off and go to college and you come back.
Right.
At that point, you came back really as more of a management because you went to Arizona, ran that.
Right.
And you had Tate around you. So you had an amazing example. There's a lot of people that get in the trades these days that they just want to check. They don't want to be good. They don't want to be great.
Right.
They don't want to earn it and work for it
Right.
and separate themselves from everybody else, which is sad because it's so easy to do right now.
Right.
What made you want to be really good?
Going back to the earlier conversation about leaning into business relationships. Imagine this, being 20-something years old, having been around the trade and not in it. You were in it. I was around it. That makes sense?
Yep.
Being around the trade, being around people you know and trust for years, going out to Arizona, going to run a $3 or $4 million job, initially what it was, working with a new local, not knowing any of the people.
You bet.
Didn't have a PM that came out with me, nothing. I understood what we were building. I understood it kind of what it was going to take, but I was green to the gills. The only thing that made that successful in that moment in time, I was out there about a month. I got a call from a gentleman by the name of Mike Wall. Mike Wall was one of the owners of J.B. Rogers, which was a company that was very similar to Beard, a little bit bigger, but family-owned business. Ron Rogers, his family had owned the business forever. Their TI was Motorola 52nd Street, and he calls me out of the blue. He says, "Hey, my name's Mike Wall. I'm with J.B. Rogers." And I had grown up in an environment here in Texas where competitors were competitors. You didn't have friendly they were competitors.
No, I get it.
And so I had that in the back of my head. I'm like, why is this going to set me up? He said, "I want to buy you lunch. I want to sit down. I just want to talk about you and Beard and coming to town. And this, one of the best decisions I've ever made." Fast forward, he not only had already done his homework on Beard, he had been involved in the UA for several years, came from the trade, just a genuinely good guy and genuinely wanted to see us succeed. And he goes, "I'm going to tell you what guys to hire out of local. I'm going to call the hall for you. Not only are you going to do this work, but we've got what they call table scraps, $100,000, $200,000 jobs. You're going to need these, because this is going to be one and done if you're going to stay." And he goes, I want to see, because you're the kind of contractors that we want here.
You bet.
It blew my mind. I probably sat there for the better part of a week going, what's the catch? I don't understand.
And most people don't get that there's not one.
Yeah. And so there was a part like having the conversation with you. That's what Mike Wall was doing. And sure enough, the hall called, hey, we're going to dispatch these. And I knew this was not, you couldn't call by name or anything like that, but, and they were working for other people and they were coming and we were building a business, right? And Mike became that mentor. And then other folks within the JB, they would do training. He's like, hey, I'd like you to come over and sit in on this. And it's blowing my mind because Beard, other than third party training from a vendor,
you bet,
there wasn't any of that. It was just, you were trained by the superintendent and, you hopefully you picked it up pretty quick because you're going to be on an island very soon.
All by yourself.
That's right. Then based on those relationships Mike had, I started developing those same business relationships. And so, the span of control in terms of being able to lean into people smarter than me that had this experience. So inherently, we started doing other projects because that's what Mike Wall and JB Rogers wanted us to do.
You bet.
We became kind of their partner. And he knew that with the right people, with the right team, with the right mentality, those projects were still going to get done kind of under that JBR veil, if you will. So, over a period of time, we did the business that we did with ST and some other customers, and basically the industry was slowing down. So it was time to kind of pack our stuff and leave. And I'll never forget this next part. He goes, hey, I'd like for you to meet another individual. And it was one of the executive VPs of Kinetics. And so I met him over at the office and he said, hey, we'd like to basically, they were in the process of buying JB Rogers. They had just bought Fulman. I mean, they were slowly becoming this $2.5 billion organization.
You bet.
And so we want to bring you in and we feel like you're the right type of person to do this. And I sat there and I'm like, there's no way I can leave. Right.
Right.
And I'll never forget, like I said, the worst decision and best decision I ever made. But I can remember I talked to Tate and he's like, this is what you need to do. This is where you need to go. You're bigger than this.
Right.
David Beard comes out and we had this long conversation and he literally cut me off. He was like, you're done. Right. Cause I was supposed to be this heir apparent of this versus this. Come full circle. Distressed business. He calls me, I need help. And so he was able to put his ego, check it, right? And give me the opportunity to come back with all these tools, again, that I wouldn't have had in my tool belt. So leaning into those business relationships, and Epi Trujillo, he was one of our senior superintendents. I learned so much from that man. And what was crazy was when he passed away suddenly from cancer, his picture that he had at his funeral was a picture of him in a beard hat. Like, those are the kind of impressions that you're making with the people. And again, those people make the difference, right? So leaning into that, leaning into another superintendent, Bob Palmer, some folks at Intel, and all these relationships that then, when I went to work for Kinetics, I started leaning to, and I still have those same business relationships today. There's a gentleman that was a entry-level procurement guy at Intel that became the director of Tesla. And we did $40 million of work with Tesla, both in Reno and in Austin, because of those relationships. And they're keys to success. And it's got to be a win-win. You can't go out, make a bunch of money on the job, but the customer's not happy. That's a win-lose.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Or you lose a bunch of money. It's, right? Time. But if you've got a win-win, because every contractor's not going to make money on every job. Because if you do, you're going to have a lot more competition, right? You're going to have some challenges. You're going to have some things that go astray. Learn from those, but make sure that you've got that business philosophy of being win-win, whether it's working on a job, buying and selling a business. That's the critical path that you need to be successful, because those are the critical things that people are going to take away, go to other companies. You know this. TI forever was a breeding ground for people going from TI to other. I mean, those people ended up showing up at other projects that I'd run into. Hey, you worked at TI. Oh, you're Dalton Burks. You remember Dalton Burks?
Remember the name.
He ended up in Motorola. Did a bunch of work with Motorola down in Austin because of those relationships.
Yeah, it's funny. You talk about the relationships and things like that and running into other people. Pretty much most of my time in the union was between two companies. I started at Brandt, came to work at Beard. Mike Burgess is like, I ran into Mike at the union picnic one year. And I was talking to somebody, I don't remember who. So what are you talking to them about? Because I was talking to Joe Hall. He says, what are you talking to them about? I said, seeing if there's just any other jobs out there. And he said, if you ever want a job, you come over to Beard. And I said, well, they told me nobody's hiring. He said, we're not. But why are you? I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So that's when I came over to Beard. Worked in the South building under Buddy. A few years later, I get a call from Ronnie Schreiber or somebody saying, hey, I've got a job I need you for. You have a certain skill set and go to work over there. And then a few years later, Matthews calls, hey, I got a job I need you for.
Right.
And it was, I remember having a conversation with my dad one day. I'd gone over and I'd just either left Brandt or Beard to go to the other one. And I came over and he's sitting and talking and we're visiting. He says, look, son, he says, you need to find one company and just stay with them and grow with them. I said, okay. Well, he worked at Western Electric, AT&T, Ma Bell for 40 years.
Ma Bell, yeah.
I said, Dad, you understand, I don't just quit jobs and leave. And he kind of looked at me funny. I said, Dad, look, companies pay me to move over to them. I said, I've got to, remember Ronnie Schreiber told me one day, he said, you're one of 4 superintendents I got that can run $25 million jobs. I said, cool. Didn't think anything about it at the time. It's just, okay, neat. And Dad says, yeah, but if you'll just stick with one, you can grow. I said, Dad, the last time I left, I said, I think I got a $5 an hour raise. And he looks at me, he's like, that's 10 grand a year.
Right.
I said, I know. He said, yeah, you just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing just fine.
Your business model, it's the same.
Yeah, your business model is working. But he started out at 25 cents an hour. And when I guess right before he went in the Navy or right after the Navy. And he stayed there forever. It's like people that tell you, look, you want to get rich, just keep throwing your money in savings. Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. It can happen.
Oh, no, it can't. Well, it's funny. You talk about that. I can remember having a conversation within the last year with Tate, and he goes, I can remember when you put money in the bank and they pay you 6% to just let it sit in there.
Yeah.
It can happen.
It can happen. It can happen.
That's for sure. But, I want to add to something that you said in terms of, you going back and forth is not just jumping from one company to, there's a need, right? They needed you for something, and they knew based on your history, their relationship with you, your skill set, whatever the case may be, they knew if they bring you on, they've got a greater chance of success.
You bet.
Right? There's no guarantees, but there's a greater chance.
There's never a guarantee.
Right. It's the same, we were talking earlier about the acquisitions of businesses, right? Going in and kicking the tires and doing the due diligence and all those things. You have a greater chance of success, whether you're buying a company or selling a company, if you understand the rules of engagement, if you understand those businesses, if you understand the expectations. Because how many friends or family members or associates have said, I'm going to sell my business. This is the right time to sell my business. And I'm going to sell it of a multiple of 20 because my business is worth this. And unfortunately, the businesses in the mindset of the owner, the value is different because they've got this sweat equity and time served. And this is what I did. And you don't understand. And there's not a value you can put on that, right?
None.
But what you can put values on is what you just described. And those are the individuals that are a part of those businesses that you have to have the ability to somehow tie those to the acquisition, i.e. Southland buying Brandt, right? Southland, that was a strategic acquisition.
You bet.
They were getting crucified in the Central Corridor because they did not have the right team members in those areas. And it's kind of funny. We talked about your fabrication before it was cool. 80% of Southland's work, that's what they do, right? And Brandt over the last few years had built that model and they've done a great job with it. Southland saw a great opportunity of, we can stop losing money or breaking even on these projects if we go make this strategic acquisition based on these people that they've got. You were one of many that helped build that model, right? And again, they kicked the tires. They understood what their need was. They had made strategic acquisitions up in Oregon and other places. But in today's world that we live in, it is extremely difficult to build a book of business. It's hard.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But if you've got the financial bandwidth and you understand strategically what you're trying to do in a certain market, say you're trying to get in the process piping market, try and build that. Today, there's no people available. They're all working. So are you going to go buy all those people? Well, they may come with relationships, but they don't have all the other gadgets and widgets and stuff. So you hit kind of a topic that's really interesting to me, because I've had these conversations with recent companies that are either looking to make purchases or selling. They forget how important the people are that they need to tie to the business for it to be a successful acquisition or a successful sale.
And like you talked about earlier, that's the most important part.
100%.
And that's not what they're thinking about.
No.
It's numbers.
Absolutely. Oh,
numbers.
Man, look, they're making
what's your incoming revenue?
Right.
What's this? What's this? What's this? This is a great purchase. Is it?
Right. Ask Brand about the purchase they made down in Waco. It was a terrible purchase.
Was it? Yeah.
Because they didn't look at the number. They looked at the numbers, and the numbers weren't right. And then they had 6 people.
That's why I said 8 out of 10 numbers you can make look good on
100%. 100%.
Show me your P&L. Well, let me have ChatGPT create an amazing one.
And that's a great segue.
It could do it.
The AI world. And I'm surprised. I'm surprised. I bet your head's spinning in terms of how to tick and tie that in our space.
Oh, I'm already doing it.
Oh,
every day.
Are you really?
Yes. Oh, yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's all, because I've been thinking in terms of, that's kind of my older son is a junior in college right now. And
now where's he going to school?
He goes to Hendricks in Arkansas.
Okay. And where did you graduate from?
So I graduated from Texas Tech.
That's what I thought.
Now, listen.
I was at the last Longhorn game.
No.
I'm just going to say the last Longhorn game in Austin.
Okay. Well, see, that's okay, because I want to clarify.
Oh, God.
What they said was, if we give you this, will you leave?
I love it. I love it.
They're not proud of me graduating.
I love it.
They're like, don't tell anybody.
Look, we're going to go in and sign you the diploma now if you'll just
We
get out.
need you to go.
I love it. Hey, we've all got their stories.
It's all right.
You bet.
It's good. But he's in business classes that are centered around AI, right? And it's very interesting to have those conversations with him. His is more banking and finance, right? And creating the algorithms to database, data search, right? And so it made me start thinking, in our space, what does that look like? And I haven't given it a lot of thought, but I'm like, there's something there. So when I saw your eyes kind of light up.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. So doing it in this space or in the leak detection space?
A little bit of all of it.
Really?
If here's the deal, and I'll teach you a trick. Treat ChatGPT like it's your best friend. Ask it questions. Go in and ask ChatGPT, if I want to be the biggest plumbing mechanical contractor in the next 10 years, what do I need to do? It'll tell you.
Yeah.
And then you look at it and you're like, okay, but I don't like this, or I don't like this. What about this? What about this?
That's what I was going to
talk
ask.
to it like it's your best friend.
Yeah.
It will tell you it. And think about it. It's looking at everything on Google. It knows what the future looks like if you ask the right questions.
Right.
Nobody's asking those questions yet.
Yeah. So in terms of, one, when you started dabbling, how long ago was that? And 2, pros and cons of what you've seen in a kind of short sample size, I guess.
I've probably been on it 6 or 8 months, somewhere around there. Like right when it first came out, we started playing.
Okay.
It's getting smarter, or I'm learning to communicate better, one or the other.
That's scary, by the way.
It is. It is.
For both things.
I know. If ChatGPT is talking to me, it's going downhill, y'all. Don't worry about it taking over the world. It's talking to me. It's just, it really is. It's exciting. It's entertaining. It's to me, ChatGPT is an employee. Ready, use it. Ready says, it's Chad.
Really?
He just, hey, Chad, I got a question.
That's his best. Now let's be clear. Is that the only real friend he's got? So, because we need to.
Well,
we may need.
Oh, you bought a dog, so I have a dog. So have a dog. Yeah, got to.
Let's do it.
He's got to. No, he's got a few friends. Yeah, he's got a few. So, to grow a company, okay, you took Beard when you took over was probably $40 million.
When I bought the business,
yeah,
it was $8 million. $8 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was there. One of the points when it was 35, 40. So you bought it at 8.
Bought it at 8.
Almost all made on the hill. TI
90%.
That's where
90%. I'll remember those balance sheets till the day I die.
Yeah, the few people that didn't work at Beard when they'd come in for an event, it's like, who are you?
Right.
I mean, they didn't work on the hill.
No, agreed.
It's like, wait, who are you? You work for Beard.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, wait, I didn't even know we did anything other than around here.
Right.
And you grew it to when you sold it, you said 100 million?
So it was over 100 million. That year we closed at about 120-ish million.
So 4 to 14, 10 years.
Roughly. Yep.
12x the company. I'm a plumber.
Yeah, but you're doing, yeah. I'm a plumber with a math mind.
Yeah, I can't help it. I sleep over sometimes when I sleep.
I can see the numbers wrong.
I know that. It's just like,
it's like I'm watching the movie A Beautiful Mind.
It's like, sometimes I feel like that is scary. That is scary. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I don't even sleep. It's like you go to bed and you wake up, you're like, oh my God, I got an idea.
Yeah.
I need to look at something real quick, or I need to take a note. To grow a small residential company, to grow a big commercial company, do you do the same things?
So I'll speak to commercially.
Mm-hmm.
Commercially is different in the sense that I won't say that you're dealing with corporations that have layers. A lot of times those layers are counterintuitive because it's the way we've always done it, right?
Which most companies, that's their answer.
Absolutely. 100%. And so, take that and kind of create one silo in the commercial and we'll kind of put that in the parking lot and then we'll go back to the residential space. I think in a residential space, you've got more flexibility. You've got more latitude to do some different things, be a bit more creative in the way that you run, operate, set up your organization. I won't say you still have to be professional, but I think that similar to the way that you operate from a business standpoint, you can talk to a first half apprentice, you can talk to a CEO of a business. Fair?
You bet.
So you're going to have to use those tools in your tool belt over in the commercial space. Whereas in residential, the CEO may be the owner of the house.
You bet.
Right? So you still have to treat them with a level of respect and integrity, right? Because that's the only way people are going to trust you and you can build your business.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got some more flexibility, right? I think, are you familiar with Milestone Electric?
Oh, yeah.
They have plumbing and
I can. You talked about building relationships. I can go talk to Gus.
Okay. So the gentleman that's their attorney, I became a friend. Our kids played t-ball, then baseball together. And so I got to see that business build. Okay. And I would say that probably you and Gus are very similar in some aspects, very relatable, very, lot of integrity, right? And had a vision, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to just do this. I want to do this, but I got to get this right. And then I got to create a copy exact model, right? Of team members, right?
You bet.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of that. You still have to run it and operate it as a business, no matter how big or small that residential business is going to be, but the flexibility. The other thing that you guys are similar in, there's brandability. That's a huge, being able to be marketable and brandable, right? So he created this brand that just took off. And one of the things that he's done and that you've done is he leaned into the marketing side of making the investment in the advertising. Huge, right? And he was relatable. Like, he looks like this jolly guy, Milestone Electric. He was singing, yeah, kind of like you, right?
You bet.
And so he leaned into all that, part of the success. Now, they still had to execute. They still had to perform. They still had to have the quality because as well as I do, you start to not perform.
Yeah, you're done.
Or not do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. All the marketing in the world can't say that. So when I look at commercial and when I look at residential, there's similarities, but they're not the same. Is that fair?
It is.
Yeah. Commercial is just, it's got so many different layers that are not necessary. And people hide behind the corporate veil a ton. And to the extent of, regardless of the size of the dollars and cents, there are times where people don't want to pay you for services rendered. And that becomes a challenge.
That happens in residential too.
Yeah, right.
I've got people today that owe me 10 grand from 5 years ago.
Right. But 10 grand versus $1 million,
A big difference.
You weigh that assessment of risk. And I'm sure that when you started seeing they weren't going to pay, we can't have this business relationship anymore because it's a win-lose.
You bet.
You're winning and I'm losing. Right. There's some other things, but those are the biggest differences that I see. Doesn't make it right or wrong. That's just my version of the world.
Brandability. How big is it for commercial?
Small business, medium business, large business, right? So from a small business standpoint, if you're trying to grow the business, there are certain ways to market your business, even in today's world. A big part of small business, because you don't have the bandwidth maybe to do the advertising, right? You lean into the business relationships and it's word of mouth. It's old school. That's a lot of it, right? You may go to one conference, you may ramp up your social media platform, but you're not probably going to be able to get an ad on a TV unless you've got some investors and it's strategic, right? The medium business, it becomes a lot more important because your medium business of, you get to that $15 million, you start to teeter because now you're starting 15 million plus, you're investing more in your back of the house and those kind of things, right? So then you got to make a business decision. I've got to take a large portion of what we're making and reinvest it into the business because neither one of those levels can be stagnant. If you're stagnant, you're done.
Oh yeah.
You may not realize it.
Everybody else is,
but you're done.
You're not.
That's right.
Yes.
So there are people that want to stay small, and that's okay because there are markets for small businesses. But you get to that next level, then you have to invest in the company, and a part of it is brand recognition, whatever that looks like. To your point with the business you saw the trucks; those are mobile billboards.
You bet.
Right? Getting on social media, there are different ways to do that. So branding and marketability, that is critical path to growing the business in whatever silo that you invest that brand strategy, the marketing money that you need to do your website, right? Your Facebook, all those kind of things are important. Large business, you had millions and millions of dollars dedicated to that because it becomes a part of the DNA of the company at that point, right? And a lot of people, especially the old school folks, I don't believe in safety. I don't believe in branding.
Yeah.
Right?
No big deal.
Right. Yeah. He got hurt. He was fired when he fell.
I think Buddy Edwards, the first one who told me, if you ever fall off a ladder, consider yourself fired 2 feet before you hit the ground.
That's
like, oh my God, I love that.
I'm fired.
But I never fall off ladders. Well, I mean, I did once, but nobody ever knew about it. How many good technicians could you hire right now?
In what space?
If I told it doesn't matter. I'm going to call it the trades.
Yeah.
Okay. A welder, a pipe fitter, a plumber, licensed, certs, you name it, they've got it. If I told you I've got a room full of them down there, how many could you hire today?
With the workload that we've got, the backlog carry forward, 100 guys. In different.
Does that scare the hell out of you?
Oh yeah, every day. Because out of those 100 guys, how many am I going to know? How many has history?
Yeah.
Give you a great example. When we went to New York, I didn't know anybody up there. But it was, again, relationship driven. A gentleman that I know at AMD was the VP of construction for Global Foundries. He said, we need your services. We're not going to need them.
Yeah.
Hey,
no way. Yeah.
I've heard that.
Roger ain't moving on enough.
I've heard that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the union up there is tough to work with.
Oh, baby. That's different.
No, it is.
All that old school stuff, that's real.
I'll tell you what, nothing but 100% respect to them, though. I remember going to the instructor training program. Their instructors walk in, and I mean, they're in button-down collars, they're in slacks, that they've got notebooks. They walk in, they sit down, they open it up. They're here to learn.
Apprentices wear uniforms to school. Daytime training, different level.
Yeah.
It's all different.
I was in New York last week, and I wanted to go see John Cullen is an instructor that came up when I was there. and he's at Local 1 Plumbing.
Oh, yeah.
Every now and then I'll get in and I'll make comments and somebody will jump in. No, John's still here.
Yeah.
John's still,
yeah.
But I was so impressed by them because the way they sent their instructors and the way we set our instructors,
different.
It's a different ballgame.
Different.
These guys are here to learn. They've got a job. They have a trade, a profession to teach and pass on.
Right.
Ann Arbor's a great party place to go hang out.
I get it.
I
understand. So when we went to New York, again, leaning into business relationships, I had served on several committees with the UA. I had become friends out in Arizona with the former General President Haidt.
I remember.
Haidt.
Got nothing but respect for him.
Love him.
Yeah.
Love him. He and his brother. And
do we want to talk about Mark McManus after this, or is it?
Oh, we can. We can. Absolutely.
I can't get him to answer my call.
That's weird. We can fix that. We'll fix that after this.
I know. Go.
So Bill was going through one of his bouts of cancer out in Arizona. He bought a house out there. So I was out there, and one of the agents knew him very well. I knew the agent from J.B. Rogers. We developed a business relationship. He was the first person I called. General President Haidt, hey, what's going on? Hey, call me Bill. No, we're talking business.
Absolutely. Okay. Respect, sir.
Going up to New York, Local 7, Glenwood Falls, Global Founders. He goes, don't worry. He or someone called, rolled the red carpet out.
Yeah.
What do you need? Do you need to bring travelers in? Not a problem. Can you do us a solid and make sure you hire some local guys, but bring whoever you need in. Now, mind you, at the peak of that project, there were 4,000 tradesmen on that job site. 4,000. Okay. So we go through 10 to find one good one. From Alabama to Arkansas to Timbuktu.
Right, not just New York people.
Oh, sir.
Okay.
They're travelers.
Right.
They're paying per diem the whole
I just want to say it's not.
Yeah. No.
When you say New York people are good.
No. This was all over the place.
You bet.
People that had never worked in semi showed up. Can you weld? Well, yeah, I guess we can. Test out.
Is that thing with the thing with
I
the
kid
thing
you
in
not.
it?
We had it set up at our shop. We bought a shop up there. We had it set up at our shop. Hey, can you weld? Yeah. Walks up. What's that? You're gone. What do you mean? What's that?
That's the welding machine.
Where's the stamp? No.
Yeah.
No. So another tool on my tool belt. So this is relatable. So if you had a job here and your baseline was a 1.0 MCA, right?
Uh-huh.
The baseline up there was a 3.0. That's where you started.
Wow.
Most inefficient project I've ever been involved in, hands down. And you couldn't change, the local couldn't change. It was the culture that existed that was not only driven by the owner and the owner's rep, it was driven by a bunch of different things, but we took our culture and took the relationships we had and the job steward and everything, and we leaned into that, and we're like, we've got to do these things. We had another job steward who had come in that was kind of running roughshod over some stuff, come over to us because we had 30 guys. Benny had brought 30 guys in because we were working on tool hookup. They literally said, you've got to slow down. You're going too fast. We had a powwow.
The union in Dallas didn't like me for the same time.
We had a powwow session. We got that worked out. But I mean, these were the things that, we were fighting against, and it was very challenging. It ended up being successful. But to your point, working in New York, working in Boston, working on the East Coast, if you don't have those business relationships, you're not going to be successful. And I will say this too. One of our strongest business relationships, he was the former business manager, then he became an international rep. He was appointed by Biden to be on the special committee for labor relations now at Washington. Super, super good guy. He gets it. He understands this. He's been there. He had a nephew that was from somewhere. He's like, hey man, he's coming back. Can you put him to work somewhere? I got to get him.
You bet.
And we did anything you want.
Oh yeah. There's a reason there.
But it's those,
Absolutely.
And again, I've said this a bunch, but it really means everything. Those business relationships, they last forever. Doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
Well, Tom Bigley had asked me if I'd speak at the first UA Plumbing Council meeting in Boston. Went in, what's my buddy's name in Boston? Murphy.
I just met Dan O'Brien, who's a new business manager.
Okay, don't know him.
Young guy, neat guy. He's not somebody's family member. He's like, I don't know how I got elected.
I was going to say, how did he get in?
And he did.
In the back door and got the job. No, I love
turning it up.
I love that.
Good guy.
See, those are the kind of people I want to get in here. So the reason I talked about McManus, I've tried reaching out to McManus. I'd love to have him come in. Actually, to be honest, your story about you could hire 100 technicians today. I heard about a HVAC company up in San Francisco. The guy's like, I could hire 90 technicians today and keep them running. What I hear is, how much money are you losing a day? You don't have 90 people that generate revenue.
Right.
How much money are you losing a day?
Yeah.
And if you need 100, how much money are you losing a day? How much do you make per man per day? And multiply that times 100 and say, wow, you know what? We're losing.
You know, the greatest thing to that point where we made our pivot, and you talked about fab. So over in Plano, we've got 1 million square feet of fabrication. We made that investment and we own the building already. And exponentially, we've seen not only the camaraderie change in our team, but exponentially, we've seen the change of the integration of them and VDC in our platform for fabrication. And I'm talking about on tool hookup, and I'm talking about on the base build work, whether it's large bore stainless, large bore carbon, PVDF, it doesn't matter. And you talk about what's the cost per man and what's the ROI per man, right? When you start to take those men out of the field and you create an environment where they can be more efficient, where they're working right here,
you bet,
instead of right here.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not a 3-0 multiplier anymore.
That's right. I don't know if we got to fix that in New York. But yes, you're right. You're right.
You could have, you can have, because they didn't need a couch to sit right next to the
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, wake me up when I got to push the button.
So how do we get more people in the trades?
I've always believed that there are young men and women that are built for college, that are built for trade school. They're built for something, right? But college is not everyone's path. It's just not. I am a firm believer. If we could take, and I'll use the union as an example. We talk a lot about investing in our young people to come into the trade, right? Don't make it about, well, he's just a plumber or she's just a pipe fitter, right? It's bigger than that. And when you look at the cost of college, especially today.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And the investment in apprentices, and it is hard, right? All those folks that went through the apprenticeship, they struggle. You don't make a ton of money.
But you're making money instead of paying money.
That's exactly right. You're making an investment in your future on that day. And today, we're paying more for apprentices than just scale, because we're making an investment in an individual. And that's important. And some of them are not 18-year-old coming out of, they're 25, 30 years old, been in a different career, coming over, wife and 2 kids. That's not going to fly. But we have to do a better job of the marketability and brandability of the trades. We have to.
So that's why I want to talk to McManus. I want, and this is just, leverage, the president of the UA, the president of the IBEW, the president of, Spagna, the sheet metal. I'm close.
It's called SMART, and it's an oxymoron, but that's a story for another time.
He said that, not me.
That was me.
But HVAC, electrical, plumbing, which to me, those are your 3 core trades that are licensed professionals.
Right.
Welders, y'all fall under the UA, so nothing against y'all.
Yeah.
But my thing is, I want to work with those 3 guys to say, look, let me help bring people into the trades, not just plumbing, not just electrical, not just HVAC. My BHAG is 3 million people. I want 1.5 million people brought into the trades because they heard me talk about it, because I helped them, whatever it is. 750,000 of them to learn to become a better tradesman. 500,000 of them to learn to open their own companies, buy a company, hire your owner, you know, learn to be an owner. And then the last 250,000 is help them learn to use networking, social media, Google, things like that to grow their business.
Right.
Where it's not just paying for clicks.
Yep.
I've talked to the PHCC, they're doing good things. I've talked to Skills USA, they're doing good things. I really think if I could get the 3 presidents of the unions and say, look, let's start talking, how do we bring people in? My experience with the union was Local 100.
Right.
Not great, especially once I got out and started my own business.
Right.
You know, a lot of behind the scenes on
Understood.
Where I came from and what they think about me.
Good for you.
And I feel like I won for Roger.
In spite of the challenges.
You know, and I did. There were challenges.
Yeah.
And even though those challenges, I still tried being a union company.
Yeah.
When I opened up Texas Green Plumbing, as soon as it got time for my interest to expire, I went down and said, hey, I want to be union. They're like, what? It's like, I want to be the first union service plumbing company. And so I had challenges for a few years.
For sure.
But then I got out of it, and luckily things got better.
Right.
And I'm always honest about it. I don't just talk bad about
Don't hide it.
It's not personal.
Yeah.
It's like, look, this is what happened to me.
Yeah.
But I tell people, look, there's amazing things about the union.
Yeah.
But from my point of view, there's also bad things about it.
For sure. Yep.
And I think it's valid. So it's like, look, I'm just going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think kids getting out of high school today, number one, we don't teach shop in the schools anymore.
No doubt.
They come out, they don't know how to read a tape measure, how to swing a hammer.
That's right.
So they're like, I could never be a plumber. You know, I don't even know how to measure a hammer. Well, don't worry about it. You don't measure a hammer, so you're good. You know, but that's their mindset.
No, I was on a job site the other day. True story. Journeyman. I'm walking and he's looking and he keeps looking. He's measured something and I'm like, oh man, I love it. Measured twice, cut once. I'm like looking at it and he's like, I go, do you not know how to read? Honest. He said, well, I'm looking at the line between half and a quarter. Man.
I know that answer. I do know that answer, y'all.
What? No, you step away from the tape measure.
Lay the tape measure down.
You're going to hurt
back
somebody.
up 5 feet, yes.
But you're right. It's true.
And how basic is that? Look, I've got a little free introductory course to plumbing that one of the deals is, here's a tape measure. Here's a tape. And I show 0 inch and 1 inch, this big. Print it out, it's an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. The big line in the middle, it says up here, that's a half. and it's like, this is the tape measure.
True. And then ask them to add fractions.
Oh, yeah.
Woo!
Oh, yeah. Or convert to decimals. Now, that's what I taught. Remember, I was the first non-union person to become an instructor in the union. And I remember they came to me, like, look, we'd like you to instruct. It's like, why?
Right.
And it's like the kids that are on your job, they come back and they're like, oh my God, I've learned so much. I'm like, okay, I like that. We're running out of time here. I could do this all day.
Right. I'm with you.
Young Bert Wells is walking out of the house that first day. And you get to walk up to him and talk to him. What do you tell Bert that day that he comes walking out of the house, 14 years old, 15 years old? What do you tell him?
When Hollis Kelly says, move the blind flanges, just go get a forklift and move the whole crate.
Not just
one at a time. Don't do that, right?
It's a 6-month job.
That was day one that I walked into.
Okay.
But I didn't have any idea about anything related to construction. I had heard what Tate was involved with, but I reflect back on those days and I kind of would tell the younger version of me to absorb as much as you can, because eventually these people that truly care about you and want you to be successful in whatever that you do will be gone sooner rather than later. So absorb as much as you can and have your eyes wide open, because it took me a while to understand what was going on around me. So reflecting back, I think I could have learned a lot more had I been paying attention sooner, instead of just going, wow, I'm making $8 an hour.
You bet.
And do you want me to move these flanges? Cool, I got this. Those relationships, those friendships that I was developing with, 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old men that had been there and done it. I just wish that I had really paid more attention. Not that I didn't learn a lot, but I could have learned a lot more. Because you only have that snapshot moment in time. And when it's gone, and you don't get it back.
Yeah, I love it. Randy works with me, and he went through the union, came up, pipe fitter, all that. He used to walk on jobs. Normally a good superintendent will walk you around, show you everybody, show you what's up. And they'd always come up to a Hollis Kelly or somebody and say, okay, that's the old guy. Nobody wants to work with him. Randy would be like, no, that's the one I want to work with.
Yeah.
Put me with them. Because I want to learn. They're like, no, you don't understand. Nobody wants to work with them.
Yeah.
Now, Hollis was different.
Hollis was wired.
He was a trip.
Yeah. But there were so many. Scaly, we got an opportunity, David Brown, working with that guy. Dave Hammond.
Yep.
And what was his counterpart? But going down to the tree and at TI, all these folks that I was around that were so uber smart in the trade. Just, Joe Kelly.
You bet.
Orbital welder du jour. I had no idea what he was doing in that snapshot moment in time, right? I was just the helper bee. Go get me that Richard Tapp.
You bet.
Guys that were just as good as gold.
Mike Burgess.
Mike Burgess. What an unbelievable, the thought process to have the vision. He could take a piece of paper and draw up what's something from A to B.
Oh, I know.
Just crazy over skills.
And he saw it, and I was lucky because when he came to work at Brant for a little bit, I was there. That's where I met him at Republic Tower. And we'd talk, and I'd see plumbing a certain way, and it's like, I just see it. And whenever I went over to Beard, I was working in, I guess, D-6, doing a fab, a mechanical room for Bob Reynolds.
Right, Bob Reynolds.
Love you,
He's
Bob.
About to retire.
Is he really?
He's finally about to retire.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
But if he has a retirement party, let me know.
I will.
I will show up for that.
We will put one together for him.
Yeah,
for sure.
I would.
Yeah.
But I'm in this mechanical room. I'm looking at the prints. It's laid out, and I've got lines popped. I'm laying everything out to mount pumps and everything. And Mike walks in, and he looks at it, because me and Mike were good friends. And he looks at the prints, and he's looking at the room, and he looks at the prints, and he looks at the room, and he says, these lines over here are going to hit in that corner. Like, I didn't even got the walls laid out yet. He said, yeah, but this isn't going to work. You're going to have to lower this line over here and come over and do this and offset. And I'm like, Mike, how can you see that? He says, I don't know. I see it.
Right.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
And sure enough, once I got up there and started laying things out, it's like, dadgum.
Yeah.
And yeah, phenomenal guy.
Yeah. There are little things that I remember, but I wish I remembered more.
Right.
Because I wasn't in the right mindset. Right. And you always understand that later in life. To your point, what would you tell? That's the greatest failure was not appreciating those moments and understanding how much better of a tradesman I could be had I spent a little bit more time tugging on their brown or denim shirts.
You bet. You bet.
Hey,
with the holes all in it and everything.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Right.
I love that. Are the trades a good opportunity for people right now?
100%. 100%. You have the ability. You can make great money. You really can. And you have the ability, pride and ownership. You're building something for the future.
Amen.
Yeah. And I use this when I talk to our apprentices, when I talk, even our supervision. What have you done today to leave footprints in the sand for others to follow? What have you done? Right? Because it's not about sending the apprentice over to cut strut. What are you doing to help further not only their career, but our industry? There's an evolution, right, going on. AI, BIM, VDC. There's a lot of things that are changing in our industry, but the skill set to use your hand to build something for now and in the future, it's irreplaceable.